ready now for our next wonderful speaker, and I'm really excited to introduce her. Our next guest joining us is Valeria Aloe, speaker, entrepreneurship coach, and award-winning author of the book Uncolonized Latinas, Transforming Our Mindsets and Rising Together. Please put your hands for Valeria.
Buenos días. Good morning. I'm Valeria Aloe. I'm from Argentina. Any other Argentinians in the house? 2. We're 3, 4, 5. We over-index today. Wow. I'm very happy to see this. So we're going to have a conversation about the role of ERGs to create a pathway for sponsorship. So how many of you believe that as Latinos and Latinas we could have more sponsorship? Raise your hand, please. How many of you, don't be shy, believe that we could do much better if we have those sponsors and we are under-sponsored today? And I see most hands in the room going up. So that's very consistent with the work that I do in advisory, in talent development, the research for my first book, the research for my second book coming out this fall. This is consistent. We need more sponsorship. That's a key for our advancement. But how do we even get there? And I want to step back and start with this slide that I'm not going to cover in detail because you have seen this data, I'm sure. You have seen this data in many other events. What this slide is talking about is the power, the huge power of the Latino community today and the huge, huge potential that we have. We will be 30% of the US in 2050. And today, the Latino GDP, our contributions to the economy would make us today the 5th largest economy on the planet and the 3rd fastest growing. Those are only some of the numbers. What this means is, and the point here is, leaders who value, support, mentor, and sponsor Latinos understand business. They understand that sitting us at the table, they have the experts at the table who can help them tap into this huge market with huge growth. So that's a case for sponsorship right there. However, you know, when I saw these numbers 5 years or 6 years ago, I became very curious because on one hand, we have these amazing data and facts, and on the other hand, we're underrepresented in leadership. So I wonder, what's behind this? Why? Why is this happening? And I went into many layers of why. And I interviewed and surveyed and launched surveys with people that I work with Latinos. Roughly, if I look at this room, 40 rooms like this. And that's what I want to share with you today. There's more under the surface that we don't see. What I have heard from our community is, and what I have learned, is we have ancestral mindsets, these repeated messages that get passed on generation after generation that force us today, in a way, to live in survival. And that's something that we are not super aware of. And of course, these sponsors and mentors don't know either. So this is under the water, right? These are these mindsets and messages that we grew up with. Do you want to learn more about that? Yes? Should we continue? So those mindsets have a real impact on our behaviors. And those behaviors determine the results that we have. And they impact those leadership gaps that we see today. So serving 30 to 40 rooms of this size, this is what I have heard from our Latinos. So I asked them, what did you hear growing up? Tell me more. What did you hear growing up? And I heard, you know, I was told not to talk about myself, se ve mal, that's a show off. Put your head down and work hard. Somebody will notice it and reward you for it, by the way. Be just thankful for what you have. Going for more could be risky. You may lose what you already achieved. Don't rock the boat. No hagas lío. Calladita te ves más bonita. Yes. That tells me something, right? So we heard growing these messages up. So what happens in our behaviors? Then I asked this group of Latinos, what happens to you? What do you struggle with? And this is what I've heard. I'm uncomfortable building my professional brand. I have a hard time speaking up, expressing my opinions or ideas. I'm reluctant to seek mentors or sponsors. How do I even start doing it? I don't know how to even do it. I was not given a roadmap to do that. And finally, I work too hard past exhaustion, particularly women, Latina women, usually we put everybody else first before ourselves. So as a consequence, then we have impact on our performance, career advancement. We are not in those tables. What I want to say with this is we are not just here poniendo los trapitos al sol. This is not what we're doing here. What we are doing here is the message for you is, and this is what I always say when I go speak in companies, there is nothing wrong with us. We come from a different culture. We have different mindsets. But guess what? We adapt, we change, we find a way. And as you have seen earlier today, we end up sitting at those tables. But to be there, we need to be aware of this, because this gives us a roadmap of work to do. And most important, it gives the sponsors, the mentors, something to work with. Imagine the power of a mentor or sponsor when they have this information about you. Now I understand what Valeria struggles with, because I had a hard time, believe it or not, speaking up. I had a very hard time. I could not talk to more than 2 people at a time. I had this person, this manager, a white man, who said, I'm going to help you speak up. And he used to nudge me in the meetings. He knew I could contribute, and he said, Valeria, what do you think? That changed my life. So for a mentor, a non-Latino mentor, to know what we struggle with is key for our advancement. The problem is, sometimes we don't talk about it. We have a sense of, there's something wrong with me. So that's a message. There's nothing wrong with you. Now, the ERGs come to the rescue in this. And I know you love this picture. I put that for you. We want to be rescued. Okay. How do the ERGs come to the rescue? At the individual level, it helps us challenge the limiting mindsets, those cultural, don't talk or don't show yourself. The ERGs are the perfect place, as you know, to challenge ourselves, to speak up, to show up, and to have that visibility with the leaders. Number 2, it invites us to work differently. Now we are a very diverse group, and learning how to work together towards a common goal is only the beginning of the transformational change we're going to create in this country, and that starts with the ERG. And third and most important, the ERGs are the center, a center for cultural immersion and, important word, education, to let those mentors and those sponsors understand exactly how they can help us. So some guidelines and ideas, Hispanic Heritage Month is coming soon, and this is what I've been doing with some of the partners that I have, my companies, to make it meaningful. So 3 things. Bring meaningful content. Let others know the power we have. Let them know what we struggle with. It is okay to ask for help, and we need to do more of that. So there is a way to bring this information in front of people that they will understand, okay, now I see how I can help. Make it action-oriented. Translate those insights and information into practical steps that leaders can take to the day-to-day to help us when we are in those rooms with them and we're struggling. What can they do? Because what I heard from leaders when interviewing them is, I'm afraid of making a mistake. I don't know how to approach this. There is a gap. So the ERGs are here to bridge that cultural gap. And finally, achieve a strategic impact. Make sure you invite other ERGs, senior leaders in the organization. The most beautiful experiences that I had is when the Latino ERG I've been working with invited all the other ERGs and the leaders in the organizations, because we learned we have so much in common, so much in common. Those divisions start to disappear. And then we learn, we walk away with actionable roadmaps on how to help each other. I will wrap up with this. We are at a historic moment in the US, and we are called to do it differently. We are called to break through the silos. We are called to unite in our diversity. And the ERGs have now the opportunity to be the center of that work, because this is only the beginning of the major transformation that we as Latinos are going to lead in this country in partnership with our non-Latino allies, mentors, and sponsors. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure, and I will be around if you have questions. Thank you.
Thank you.